The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The date is February 12th, 2021, and the subject is the emotional aspect of the throat chakra in the sign of Aquarius. Me. I want to have 1,000,000 friends and thus be able to sing louder, intoned the singer Roberto Carlos, and every time someone says Gemini, that's the phrase that comes to mind. I am. Well, there is no doubt that this constellation recalls the sweetness of brotherhood and friendship, the love of sharing and discovering the other as part of oneself. The constellation was named for the two big stars that look twinned in the sky, called Castor and Pollux. Both represent the forces of balance, the positive and the negative, but not in the balance or the fight, but in the purest and most loving unity. The myth tells that Zeus fell in love with the wife of the king of Sparta and transformed into a swan to make her fall in love. This woman, Leda, having had relations with Zeus in his swan form, returns to the castle where she consummates with her husband that same night. Because of this, Leda gets pregnant by both at the same time. But the strange thing about the story is that the woman lays 2 eggs. Of one is born Pollux, the son of Zeus, and from the other is born Castor, the son of the king. The former was immortal and divine, while the latter was mortal and human. But despite their indisputable differences, they both loved each other deeply, so much so that they seemed to be one. They were twins. The word twin comes from the Indo-European yem, which means to pair, to put in the same place, together. This gives rise to Geminis, that is, fathered or born together as a couple. Its nominal formation is Gemini, which gives its name to the constellation. It bears the name of these twins because, according to Greek history, Castor dies in a battle, which destroys Pollux, who asks his father Zeus to end his life because he will not tolerate living without his brother. He asks Zeus to let Castor go up to Olympus or let him go down to hell. But Zeus places them both in the stars, where they can share eternity. In Egyptian mythology, the Gemini figures are a man and a woman, representing day and night, external and internal light, holding hands in a sign of brotherhood. For China, it is the stars of yin and yang, who keep things in balance, as a unit. Me. In other words, for all cultures they have always represented that fraternity or balance. I am, and above all because of a special characteristic, it is the time of barter. Me. Exchange. I am. We have talked about barter in relation to Libra, which was in charge of putting the value of things based on their weight, and therefore there was equity when exchanging products. Well, Gemini is the one who is in charge of carrying out said final exchange. He is the one who communicates between the different agents of commerce. The Gemini period was a time of need, while from Taurus the field began to be cultivated. It was necessary to obtain the necessary resources for the continuity of life until production was adequate. Therefore, families and villages were forced to communicate with each other, to exchange products and tools. But something is clear. The human does not interact like a machine, but rather through emotion. Thus, the meeting points were called fairs, markets, days of celebration, where there were games, new people from different cultures, where to learn many things and discover the latest news. Many gathered to drink, to celebrate, to interact, to make the best deals in the purchase or sale of seeds, products, foods, tools, just as the children found spaces to play, discover, learn new things. Many spoke different languages, and it was necessary to learn to communicate in different ways to obtain the expected result. And many did not see each other for a long time due to the distances and work. So those moments of sharing were essential for conversation, talking about everything that had happened, meeting old friends, and catching up. Me. and in the sky were Castor and Pollux. I am. During that time, everyone remembered the importance of being brothers, of not fighting. It was a delicate time, because winter resources were running out, and it was necessary to start planting and cultivating again, raising animals again. They couldn't be fighting, arguing. It was important to be brothers, to find peace between one another. Me. This describes the personality of the stars. I am. Again, what happens on Earth decorates the energy of the stars. The Gemini stories are the ones that help everyone know that this is the time to talk, to converse, to create friends, where even those I can consider enemies must become part of this exchange. Gemini is a time of brotherhood, of fragility, and for this reason it was necessary for everyone to know the importance of getting along during the passage of these stars, if what was sought was to survive. Me. The needs of peoples forged the subconscious idea that Gemini is the stellar body that conditions our relationships and communications. The Word. I am. And for this reason, it is the physical aspect of the body of the Trinity of Air. Aquarius being the expansive mind of the spirit, Libra being the creative harmony of the soul, makes Gemini the communicative demonstrator of the body. It is the throat of this being that we are. The best Gemini tool is diction, communication, the word as the main tool, communication as the fundamental means of existence. The word is the creator of the universe, and it can only be created if the polarity is recognized as one, if everything is interconnected. Without Gemini to pronounce the word that unites both ends of the poles, Libra would continue to doubt which one of them should say the first word to be the most correct. And without Gemini and their communication, Aquarius would never be able to say what they think, capture his infinite world. Me. Gemini investigates, asks, tries to listen, advise, and philosophizes in an open psychology, capable of moving from one side to the other without problems. I am. This manifests the symbol you know as yin-yang. Me. A circle formed by a black drop that contains a white dot, and another white drop that contains a black dot. I am. Representing constant circulation, the interaction of both forces. The white is the expansive divinity, and the black is the limiting manifestation. The symbol recognizes, then, that everything is a fractal of divinity that manifests itself, of an expansion that generates limits, and reminds us that in every manifested limitation, there is the possibility of freeing oneself and being divine, while in every divine expansion, there is a kind of limitation. Me. I always heard that yin-yang is good and evil. I am. Well, no. This is a dualistic vision that considers that there is something that is good and something that is bad, when in the universe it is not conceived like that, but rather as a pattern of harmony within which there is the possibility of the manifested and the non-manifested. The summarized, simplistic vision, that is to say that in everything good there is something bad and in everything bad there is something good. However, you do not leave a moralistic vision of judgment, which Gemini does not use. Gemini does not recognize if it is good or bad. Gemini only exchanges. Me. And that's sometimes where Gemini conflicts start. I am. Exactly, because in many cases, when Geminis get out of harmony, they try to get along with God and the devil. Me. I heard that phrase many times, but in my point of view, if God and the devil as concepts arise from the same unity, then what is the problem of getting along with both? I am. Not a problem until it becomes inconsistent. That is to say, when I say to that God, I am going to clean the house, and at the same time to the devil I say, calm down, I am going to dirty the house. It is one thing to have a good relationship with both visions. Another thing is to lose one's own essence by wanting to be accepted by both external visions. Geminis, in their eagerness for communication and fraternal exchange, ends up generating discord, conflicts, confusion, because instead of finding their own position and internal axis, they swing from one extreme to the other, giving each one what they want to see, hear, feel. Me. It's the famous Gemini bipolarity. I am. The desperation to make everyone get along, that there is no conflict, that everything is understood perfectly, that no one is offended, ends up precisely generating the opposite. Human society, made up of beings without their own axis, has subsisted by handing over power to others, pretending what they are not, because to belong to a group one must stop being something to become that group. Thus, two faces are created, one looking in and the other looking out. The first hidden trying to survive in the shadows, in denial, and the other trying to adapt and be accepted by others. Me. That describes our humanity of appearances, of conflicts, of being what others want us to be, losing our essence for the good of the group. I am. It is important to recognize that Geminis teach us to speak, to communicate, to give the floor, to interact between the different parts and to express through the voice what lies in Libra's perceptions and Aquarian ideas. Teams are built thanks to the Gemini art of making everyone feel like an equal part of a group. But to achieve this, the Gemini being must put on a mask for each individual he interacts with, becoming so many options of himself that he forgets who he really is. Me. That is what happens to a civilization like the current one based on telecommunications. In globalization, a time in which we have begun to interact like never before. I am. Today you are under the command of Mercury, ruler of Gemini. You are a Gemini civilization of appearances in its most negative aspect, in showing what others want to see, all decorated with Libran injustice and Aquarian indifference. You are off-axis, and that leads you to turn the air signs into an unstable hurricane. Me. How do I stabilize it? I am. Try speaking your truth. Try saying, I think. This is my vision. Don't give advice. Do it. My task for you today in relation to the Gemini that lives in you is to think about those things in which you should have an opinion and never omit a word. Take that concept or idea, person or circumstance that you always wanted to comment on but have never done so, and write it down to later recite it, read it aloud, and even dare to say it to the person it corresponds to. And on the other hand, those who tend to say everything, that don't keep quiet, who talk too much, I invite you to stop giving advice and opinions. Think for a moment before saying what you think. What you think would be better, and instead of saying it, do it yourself, without waiting for someone else to say or do it. It is not always necessary to communicate everything we do to show ourselves and be accepted. I invite you that the next time you do something remarkable and incredible, don't count it and keep it for yourself, because it's for you, not for others. Me. Difficult having Instagram. I am. Instagram is the treasure and bane of a Gemini spirit. Leave the verbiage and speak what is necessary. Do not consider yourself essential for there to be communication between others. Sometimes silence is the best of words. Sometimes a word is the liberation of so much silence. Look in the mirror and say everything you haven't said to yourself. It is time to remember that you are two. Your twin lives inside. Look at him and love him, your shadow and your light. They are the only ones that must find communication, so that you stop fighting with the world, so that you stop wanting to be liked by the world. Me. I am my own twin, and when I understand, I can really have 1,000,000 friends. I am, and instead of filling you up, they will nourish you. I am the food of truth.